Hey guys, what's up? I'm Riley,
And I'm Josh.
and we are your hosts of the Good As New podcast. What is
Hi.
up, everybody?
This is so exciting
This
today.
is so fun. We have Madison on. Do you go by Madison
Yes,
or
hello,
Maddie?
and I'm Madison.
Okay, there you go.
Yes,
Yep,
hello.
perfect.
I always go by Madison because
okay.
my best friend was Maddie, so I never did
Okay,
that.
I was like, I wasn't sure, but we're super excited to have her on. She's the coolest human being, so
Yeah.
I'm so excited
Thank you.
to be here with her.
Madison and I actually, and also I'm sick. I have
Yeah.
a cold,
She
a
sounds like-
cough.
I am too a little bit. We
Yeah,
don't always
so
have
we're
that
nasally.
good
We don't
raspy
always
voice.
sound like this.
Yeah.
Like Riley.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, we're not all sounding like Riley all the time.
No, it's terrible.
But I have like the nasty cough where you're like coughing stuff up.
Oh,
You know what I'm talking about?
yes.
Like it's
Terrible.
disgusting, and it's like I'm hacking stuff up, and I'm just so sick of this.
Yeah, it's
Anyway.
terrible.
But Madison and I actually both went to Aveda. I went to hair school. She went to aesthetic school. And so we kind of have that background. And also CJ, they knew CJ, her husband, through events, right? Is what you said?
Yes.
And so CJ was like always dancing at
my
them
husband
and-
used to throw events when I was going to Aveda for like a side gig, and
Yeah.
he
That's
would have
awesome.
break dancers come and dance, and he would
Yes.
come dance, and he was so good.
Okay, you know what is so crazy about that actually? So we had an event one time, and I think Kyler was in charge of it, and CJ was supposed to go, and I was supposed to go. I was supposed to be at the event. We both went to the Howl instead, and that's how we met.
Oh, really?
We found out like 2 weeks
So it
later
was,
we
like,
were
meant
both
to
supposed
be.
to be
Oh my
there,
Wait,
and he
that's
bailed,
awesome.
and I didn't go to the event,
you
and
both
then
went
we
home.
met. Isn't that crazy?
Or
That's
you could have
incredible.
also met at the event though if you
We
went,
could. I
'cause
know.
you had both been there
We were
too.
gonna meet either way,
Either
which
way,
is
it
kind of
was-
cool.
Or what if God's like, dang it, that was my way to have them meet. Okay, now they
Fine.
have to
Yeah, we gotta
influence them both to go to the
reroute.
Howl
Gotta-
now.
We got to get her to the Howl.
Gotta get to Utah State quick.
Yeah, just an hour away, a school they both don't go to. We're gonna make it
That's
work.
So
What kind
Yeah.
of parties did he throw? Like just anything?
I don't really remember. I remember like we used to live at that village place, and
Mhm.
at the Waffle they would throw stuff all the
oh
time.
yes.
And also just
okay.
big events other places. I think it was, I don't know, they would just make so much money because people would buy a ticket.
tickets.
Mhm.
Okay.
He would send out these mass. You used to do this thing on Facebook where you would get somebody in the hallway. You'd stop them in college, and you'd have them send out an email to an invite to every single one of their Facebook people at once. There was a algorithm you could use where you highlight all.
What?
I mean,
That's
he was
incredible.
going to their grandparents and their uncles too, right?
Yes.
But it's going to everybody, and it was like boom, right
Yeah.
there, every single person, and it was doing that to every
That's
single
so cool.
person's email list or whatever. And if you were the one that sent it out, then you got to go for free. But then all those people would pay for it. So it was like this
Like an
massive
MLM.
way. Yes, I know.
Literally.
And so my husband had this down to a T, and he was making like in a weekend, he would pay for like, all of our
Yeah.
bills that month. And he would do this like every 4 times a month or whatever, like
Yeah.
every weekend.
That's so cool.
He would get dancers there. They would have catered food. So, I mean, he had some overhead he obviously
Yeah.
had to pay for, but it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then we got to
Legit.
meet everybody, and it was just fun.
Yeah, just a fun social.
feel like there
thing.
I
is-
don't know why he got into
like
that.
in college, there's
I feel
parties to
like-
go to, but then there's better parties to go to.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
the better party
He was
to go
throwing
to.
cool ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
sick.
feel like your husband dips his toe into a lot of stuff.
Oh,
Like all
a
of a sudden he's
million
a
things.
singer,
Yep.
and I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, he comes home weekly with a new business that he's invested
Yeah,
in. Like
I
we're
love that.
now partners in about 25 businesses.
You're like,
and
okay.
I'm okay, so where are we focusing our energy though? Like today, he left because he's about to start, and he was like, oh, this friend, he's starting this business. I was like, hold on, stop right there. Another one, because I'm pretty sure we've already
We got a
So
lot.
good.
We got a lot.
Gosh, he loves to just be that entrepreneur and
Which is great.
everything.
It's
That's
amazing,
awesome.
but
That's
that's-
Riley.
I mean, stuff. But yes, that's
If
amazing.
you have your eggs in enough baskets, one of them's gonna turn
Yeah,
gold or something. Right?
Exactly.
That's what he keeps
exactly.
saying. Got
Yeah.
it.
Anyway,
Yeah,
so
I'm-
we went to Aveda,
Yeah.
and we weren't great friends because we were in the same program, and we haven't really talked since. But
Yes.
the one thing I remember, and we just talked about it on her podcast that we recorded, she has the best hair. And so like
She
everybody
does.
in
It's
hair school,
incredible.
but also you're just like beautiful. Like you're
Thank
stunning.
you.
We were all obsessed with her. Like
Oh my
anytime she would walk by the
You're
hair,
so nice.
we're all like staring at her like
Everyone's
she's
like,
so cute.
My
There
hair
she
used
goes.
to be down almost to my hips.
It was
and when I would
insane.
wear it extra curly, it just was so, I have really thick hair, but now
Yeah.
my hair is so thick and curly still, but it won't grow.
Oh,
It's like,
it's perfect.
So no-
Whatever
yeah.
Hoping
is
it'll dry out.
happening.
So
thank
amazing.
you. You're so
Have you
sweet.
always had blonde in your hair?
I've always had blonde in my hair since I was a
Okay.
kid, because as soon as my hair started going dark during puberty, I would start going and getting highlights because
Okay,
my
yeah.
hair was green at the ends because it was so blonde. I was a swimmer at
Yeah.
some point. And so my mom started getting highlights to get the green
yeah.
out. And so I just kept getting them and getting them and getting them. So I never saw my natural
That's
hair
incredible.
color. So
And
it was just
now-
always blonde always.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I love it. Do your
fun.
sisters have this incredible hair as well?
You're so nice. Our whole family has the poofiest, curliest,
That's
biggest,
magical.
thick hair ever.
Who's it from? Mom, dad?
I think it's from my dad. He had actual and afro. So the same afro you would see
Okay.
in someone that was ethnic, he
Mhm.
had that as an Italian.
Oh,
That is
Like the full
amazing.
actual
you're
afro.
Italian?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't
And then
know.
my
How fun is
mom's
that?
hair is so thick too. I guess both
Really?
of them. It's
Gosh,
so
they-
crazy.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
great genes.
Why is this twisting
Thank
on
you. You're
I know.
so
Fix
sweet.
that for her.
Just need to start having it grow now. I started taking those vitamins.
Oh, which one?
I take the Nutrafol vitamins.
Oh, yeah.
And then I
Okay.
take, I switched to that. I don't want this to be a big brand thing here,
No,
but
No,
go.
let's do it.
the Oribe shampoo.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I switched
Oh
to
my
both
gosh.
of those the last 6 months, and for the first time, I finally got my extensions out because I'm like, I don't need them. My hair was passing the extensions.
Okay.
It's still not that long, but my extensions were only to add length before.
Yeah, yeah.
Nutrafol and Orbe. I'm going on a hair journey. Remember I talked about this.
That's hilarious how her extensions were to add length. I feel like everybody does it for thickness now.
yeah.
Like you're the
Yes.
only person
That
that
does
does
it
Mine
it
was
for
just
length.
to have not a lot of length because I didn't want it because to add a lot of length for my hair because it's so puffy. You
would
have to have a bunch.
so much.
So
Oh,
for me to
gosh.
have one row, it was too thin underneath. So
Yeah.
I would only do it for an extra like inch,
Yeah.
so
To
that
fill
it,
it
would
in.
look like it was like a straight ends.
Yeah.
when it was straight
Yeah.
end. Or
Yeah,
and then I finally was like, it's too thick. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't even style it, so I just took them out.
it looks incredible.
That's
Thank you.
where I am
You guys
right
are
now.
so sweet.
We
I
love
only
this
have one
hair
row
journey.
in.
No,
and
but
I'm
your
like-
hair looks incredible. Sometimes I
thank
miss
you.
it because it just really does make it so nice, doesn't it?
It
And it
does.
have
just
'em.
stays like it.
Yeah. It
just
stays
always looks
curled for
nice.
so long. Yeah.
I don't miss mine, but
Yeah. No. She had them for a while.
I
and
did.
just recently took them
2
out.
years
There's
Yours
They're
benefits to both.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
there
for
is.
sure. You can't do the slick back with extensions, and that's like my new
No.
personality. I always have my hair
Yes.
slicked back.
I love that that's a trend right
I
now.
love
Because
it.
how easy is it for
No.
us?
I
So
know.
easy. It's
Greasy
so
hair,
great.
fine.
Literally right
And
back.
it looks like elegant, like
Yeah.
nice.
Yes.
I know. I
With
know.
some good earrings. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, you look, yeah, you got ready for the day.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's how they know each other.
hmm
And then when we saw that she had a podcast and she's been through a lot of things in her life, we were like, wait, we've got to connect with
We
her.
gotta
So
get
here
her
we
on.
are.
Mm-hmm. So
Thank
fun.
you.
Mad life. It's amazing.
Yeah. Tell us.
And
like,
you've been in so much in your life too.
Yeah.
Okay, the Mad Life. So
Yeah,
first
tell
we
us
started.
everything.
Okay, so we started our YouTube channel. That kind of took off. We were one of the first family vlog channels.
Love
Right.
There was like 5 of us, right? That were like the OGs of family vlogging. It was going incredible. Not a lot of people doing it. It was weird at first. Like it just felt so weird to vlog our life. Well, when that took off, then we got, we were just doing that. And now, because it's so oversaturated, it's kind of like taking a, I don't know, it's just kind of hit this
Like
point where we're like,
plateauing.
yeah, plateauing. Now you have to get in really into like these challenges now.
Mhm.
It's not really about vlogging anymore. It's about
Yeah.
like a pretend, like turning your house into like a Starbucks or making a fake hole in your wall or
Yeah.
being a zombie
Yeah.
for 24 hours. It's those things that are trending. So I'm like, well, I don't know if that's really what I want to do.
Yeah.
So we're still kind of vlogging here and there. We're like, but let's make our brand a little bit wider. Instead of always having to be known as the family, which I
Yeah.
still want to be known as that. It's amazing. Mom of 5 kids. It's
And
great.
are they, how far apart are all your
They're all
kids?
super close.
Yes.
So the twins are 7, and then we got the 4-year-old Halston, and then the 3-year-old Oliver, and then the 1-year-old Cohen. And so I was pregnant like 3 years in a row.
Yep.
It was crazy.
I just remember seeing like another kid, another kid,
You're like,
another.
they just keep
It was
coming.
just like nonstop.
Were you planning on having 5? Like, was that your end
So
goal?
my
or-
plan was 12 when I first met Kyler. I was
Shut
like, I
up.
wanted to be I
Perfect.
wanted to be the next Octomom. I wanted to be the cheaper by the dozen
Stop.
family. Like
Yes.
whatever was crazy,
Yes.
that was me. Like
Yeah.
everything I wanted to do for work was in the daycare, was preschool. I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher. Like I
Cute.
always
the
Love
mom
it,
of all
right?
moms.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was like I just wanted to be surrounded by kids. And then
Mhm.
as soon as you started having them, you're like, oh my gosh, this is
Forget it.
when they're your own, it's
level.
a different.
So I was like, okay, the lowest I'll go is 5. Like I felt too sad to be at 4. I'm like, I'm crushing my dreams if I go to
Dreams.
4. So I mean, I can maybe do 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And then it sounded too hard to do 6. Then we did 5. To me, that was like a low number, but I feel like 5 is the new 12
No,
No,
it is.
absolutely.
because it's so hard,
Yeah.
especially with the way the world is right now. Like it's just so tough, to do it all.
Are you
but
done?
We're
5?
done
5 is
now. So
done.
I got a tummy tuck last year. My husband got fixed.
We're done. That
Okay.
factory has
Vasectomy.
closed.
Yeah, my
How
stomach.
is the tummy tuck?
Yeah, so my stomach was like destroyed from the twins, right?
Right.
I mean, I say destroyed in the nicest way possible. I mean, it was such a
Love of
miracle,
love.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I love my body.
Blessed. Yeah.
I see
But it
that
was
side of it
destroyed.
too.
Yes.
But at the same time, I also see the side of like, I didn't feel like myself. I had a 4-inch gap in my stomach. You could fit all 4 fingers in. I had a
Oh my
hernia.
gosh.
I couldn't do any ab workouts because it would separate it more. It was just all these things. I was just so over it. I had so much crinkly skin. You couldn't see my belly button. I couldn't even wear any bikinis, even high-waisted. Like my
Oh.
skin would crinkle over the top. I couldn't button my jeans. It was just so annoying. Like I
Yeah.
just didn't feel like myself. And so I went and got the tummy tuck and it changed my whole life. It was the
That's
best
good.
decision I ever
amazing.
made. Everything's flat. I went down 2 jean sizes.
Oh my gosh,
It's
that's
just
incredible.
crazy. I have like abs now. Sometimes I
Wow.
can actually
That's
see like I
amazing.
can see them and
Yeah.
it's crazy. I would never see them before. So it was a good decision.
That's a great
I'm
decision.
glad.
We
How
love
so
was
that.
happy
how
I
was
did
the
it.
healing? Like, because aren't there like drains and stuff
Yes,
in
I
you
had
for
drains for about 7 days. Those were the worst part for me. They were so like itchy and burny. As soon as those
Yeah.
were out, I was good to go. Like
Yeah.
I felt like
Okay.
I was pretty. I like to push the limits. My surgeon was so annoyed with me because most people want to lay there. I have this like overwhelming like I don't know if I have ADHD or anxiety or
Yeah,
what, but I have to
something.
get up and go. Like as
Yeah.
soon as I did this when the twins were born. They said like I had a C-section, like don't move. I went on a mile walk when they were a week old with these 2
Stop.
babies
You're like,
to
I
the
gotta go.
pier. And when I got there, I felt like someone was cutting me open with a knife. And I
Yeah.
was like, what am I doing? Come pick
Yeah.
me up. I'm
Yeah.
dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what am I doing? I have to like force myself to do stuff. So I'm out of this tummy tuck surgery, cut hip to hip. You know,
Yeah.
everything was like sewn up in there. And I'm over here trying to, okay, I'm going to be the one that stands up straight on the first day. I'm going to be the one that
Yeah.
can go all the way
It's
to
gonna
the
be me.
kitchen
Yes.
when she tells me to rest. And I'm going to tell her I did it. Well, she didn't want me to do that. She was like kind of annoying, like, oh, your stitches are gonna rip out. But I was so determined. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be the one. I'm always trying to push the limit.
Push the limits.
But I never took any pain meds. Like her client, like she one of the things she's known for is she takes so much time sewing you up. She took 8 hours just to sew you up. It's like a 12-hour
Wow.
surgery or something. I don't
Oh
know how
my
long it
gosh.
was. I was out for forever. She does it so slowly and perfectly, is how she says it, that you don't need to be on pain meds after. You just take Tylenol.
That's incredible.
But I would tell you the first day I needed those pain meds.
Yeah. You're like, this is a lie.
And I said, I appreciate your talents. I
And
appreciate
your time.
your perfect sewing. But I don't know why. Maybe because I'm human. I need some pain.
Yes. And you just cut me open and sewed me up.
Yes,
By
and
the
then
way.
she was like, "Are you sure you're okay? Do you have any like mental issues in the past with pain?" I'm like,
Stop.
"No, I
No.
just had my stomach cut off."
Yeah. You're like, I'm
Give
just in
me
pain,
the
man.
medicine now.
Every person I've told this to, they're like, "How?" I was on pain meds for weeks, and her
Yeah.
thing is, if you are on any type of those oxycodons, it actually delays healing in your
Yeah.
body.
Okay.
And so she allowed me to take one.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky
One,
you.
the nurse came in with the special cup. She said, here's your one and only pain med.
And
Yeah.
good luck to you for
And
the
when
next
I
3
took
weeks.
it, I was like, oh my gosh, I can relax. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I can sleep. So I
Yeah.
couldn't sleep and I couldn't eat because when you're in that much pain, you're like, you can't eat or
Yeah.
sleep.
No.
You have no appetite.
And so I'm like, I couldn't even talk. My husband tried to talk to me or show me something, and my head was spinning
Oh,
Mm.
that's
from the
so
pain.
hard.
And when he
Yeah.
was showing it to me, I was like, Kyler, I can't see you. You are a blur, and the sounds are like screaming sounds. The lights are hurting me.
Yeah.
The sheet is hurting me.
Everything.
I'm like, I can't function. And so when they would bring me food, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
So I did take that pain med and it changed everything. And then after that, I was like, they would send me to these hyperbaric chambers, which a lot of other people don't do.
This sounds terrifying.
Hyperbaric chambers are the coolest things ever.
What
you
is
guys.
it?
Have you heard of them?
No.
Okay, so if you're claustrophobic, it might be scary, but it's these tubs.
Okay.
So I guess Michael Jackson used to have one in his house.
Okay.
You can say youthful for almost, it's like a special youthful thing that you can say youthful like for years.
Wait, what?
It takes away aging. It can cure anything in your body.
What?
So you go into these oxygen machines, and the oxygen is, gosh, I lost all the lingo from it because
alright,
I
just-
forgot like what it does. But basically, you go
Because
into
you
this
took
chamber.
that one pain med.
Yes.
The one pain med.
So if you have any type of surgery, if you have any type of like back pain, if you have any type of like even mental thing, it can get rid of people with PTSD. It can get rid of things with depression. It can cure
Wait
anything.
a minute.
Kids can go in them. People, it'll reverse aging in you. So you sit in this hyperbaric chamber. It has this oxygen that goes in, and you breathe, and it has a little TV in there. It's this tiny little. It's like
Tub.
it's like the length of a crib, but it's a little
Uh-huh.
longer, like the size of your body, and it closes all around you. You're in
Okay.
this little tube, and
Okay.
there's windows you can see out, but
Yeah.
you lay in it, and he turns on the oxygen, and your body breathing that oxygen in makes your cell turnover as if it was, I don't know, like I guess what makes us youthful is our cell turnover is quicker when we're kids, right?
Okay.
Right.
So it like makes your body do that again. Don't
That's
quote
so
me on all the
cool.
little things. Go look it up
Yeah.
because
Go look it up. That's easier.
there's so many benefits to it. And so what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to make all of those little things that are healing. It's like it pushes it like weeks in advance. So like whatever
Oh,
my body would
That's
have done in
incredible.
healing for like 2 weeks, it's doing that in 20 minutes.
okay.
Wow.
Yes, it can
Should we
close wounds.
go?
Oh, this is what was so cool about it. He would show me these images. Somebody's nose got bitten off by a shark or something.
Okay.
And this guy goes in, he didn't have part of his nose. After his nose was dead, it was black, like his skin
Okay.
was gone, it wasn't going to reattach itself. He goes into the hyperbaric chamber, the black went to red, then the red went to peach, and then everything closed in and his nose came back to life. So it brings your skin back to life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so if
That's so cool.
if your arm gets amputated, if you go in there, it
It heals it
reattaches
up.
itself. It's like it
Oh.
remakes your cells start
Yeah.
come alive.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Okay. We learn something new
So-
every day.
So the like the doctor's office had that for you?
Yep, she sent it to me. She sends her patients to like the best care.
Okay.
She sends you to these hyperbaric
It's
chambers.
no pain meds.
I mean, her office was like in the middle of Rodeo Drive. Like she was next level. Like it was, I
Yeah.
felt like a little princess.
Yeah,
you know?
that's really cool.
Like it was a good experience.
Yeah,
you did it
that's
in
awesome.
where? California then?
California. So I
Okay.
flew there.
And did it.
That was the only hard part was I was away for the kids for a
Yeah.
month.
Oh, it was a month?
Oh, wait, no. 3 weeks?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
I don't know. I wasn't there. Sorry, sweetie.
6 weeks? 6 weeks.
Okay.
Oh my
wow.
gosh.
Yeah, so I think, I don't remember, guys.
But you were there, gone
Yes.
for a while.
Okay, no, wait. I think I had to be there for like 2.5 weeks. And then I think I could come home and it was a 6-week recovery total. But yeah, I think
Okay.
it was only 2 weeks there.
Okay.
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 This
It
is
was
all
it's been a
Anyways,
year,
but you
guys.
went there. You did.
You got
the
a tummy
thing, you came
tuck.
back.
You're looking great. You
Got
have
it.
abs,
Thanks.
and that's great.
Okay, so the twins were hard.
Yeah,
We
twins
love
are
that.
hard
So
on the
deep in this
body.
hyperbaric chamber. Where can we go
Literally.
back?
Let's rewind.
Okay.
Dude, so
keep
wait.
going.
I have a question. So the twins messed up your stomach the
Yes.
most, and then, I mean, the other kids were just single kids. So did anything get worse?
No, it was all fine. Like I
It
was
was all
thinking if I
normal.
didn't have twins, I would have just had a like. It would
I've
have
always
looked like I never
wondered
had
that. Like, do they
kids.
really wreck your body like that much, or?
I think just because I was so small, like I'm like a small, like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not tall. I was pretty thin, like a
Like small
s-
built person.
tiny, yeah. And so the twins just like it just
Yeah.
was tiger stripes.
Yeah.
It just I couldn't, my body couldn't hold it in.
And do you have twins in your family, or were these random?
So my
Or?
grandparents had twin, and my uncle had 2 sets of twins. I was always
Okay.
thinking I was gonna have twins, but because they were identical, anyone can have identical twins because it's just the egg splits, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't even hereditary.
Okay, yeah.
So it just was random, and I was so excited.
That's
I couldn't even believe
And
it.
incredible.
your first pregnancy twins. Like, I can't
I
even
know.
imagine, but also, like, you don't know anything else.
Yeah, I didn't know anything else.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like we just had these babies, and it really changed our entire life. I mean, we lost everything right before they were born. We couldn't even afford groceries because we invested all of our money into this big business deal that went south, and so we didn't know what we were gonna do. I've got these twins. My husband's dad had cancer. He was about to die. He actually died like the week they were born.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Oh.
he was always in Idaho with his dad, and so didn't even know what I was doing, right? And so
Yeah.
this social media stuff really changed our life because Kyler came home one day and said, "Listen, like I don't want to keep leaving the state to work because he had to work out of state, and it's too hard to travel with these babies to different states." I was like, "So why don't we start a YouTube channel?" And so when we started it, it literally blew up out of nowhere.
How old were the twins at the time when you
Probably
started?
like 4 months old.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and people just loved that we had twins, and so all the influencers wanted to make videos with us and with these babies, and it literally just changed our whole life. So I feel like
Yeah.
God was put that,
Mhm.
even though it was really hard that his dad left and we had lost everything, it was almost like everything turned around in such a interesting way. Like when you look back at it, all the puzzle pieces like fit so
Yeah.
perfectly that it was no doubt that God or his dad were like,
Here we
here you
go.
go.
This is what
Yeah,
you're
it
doing.
was
Yeah.
crazy when you look back at it, how random everything fell into place.
Yeah.
So we did the YouTube channel for a while, and then now because everything's kind of plateauing and it's the algorithm changed and they started passing all these certain laws where you can't have you either have to make your videos made for kids or not, or when kids can be in it and all this stuff. I was like, we need to make ourselves more well-rounded. We can't just be known as like this family with 5 kids.
Yeah.
We can be known as that, but let's also be known as, what's your talent, which he loves country music. So we got into country music. What's mine? I
Yeah.
love to share mom moments, like what I do with, as a mom. So I wanted to start this podcast. I wanted to talk
Yeah.
to other people about their life experiences and just be like, I don't know, like have a community of just like adults where I don't have to always just be like,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Not
doing
Not
like
one
his
thing
crazy
that
YouTube.
defines you.
Yes.
You know.
I didn't want to just be that, just in
Yep.
case something happens to it. Like you need to spread yourself in
Yeah,
all other
for sure.
areas. So then we started the podcast. It's kind of newer. It's we're still trying to figure it all
How
out.
many episodes do you have, do you think?
I think we're probably in the 20s or 30s.
Okay.
Okay,
But
yeah.
I lost track now.
No,
We still
we
label
don't know
them
either.
episode this, episode that,
Mhm.
and then he's like, "Do we really need to put the episodes in the title anymore?
Yeah.
Like, let's just make the title what it is." So
Yeah.
now I've kind of lost track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been so much fun because
It's
it
fun.
allows me to do other things than just the family vlog channel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's way fun.
And your podcast is so cute. Like,
Thank you so
yeah.
much.
That's
Mhm.
so cute in here.
I know. This
Thanks.
room.
Yeah, my
I
husband
love
kind
it.
of put this whole thing together himself.
You're really
He's-
inspiring us.
Yeah.
Ours is literally a sheet on the wall.
Literally a
like,
sheet.
we just,
But
we
we're
need to up
getting
our
there.
game. We're getting there.
We're getting there.
But
Yeah.
if most people are listening in, it doesn't really matter anyway.
It doesn't really matter.
No,
but
but
we
it
do want to
is
do
kind of fun.
YouTube. We've
Oh,
talked
you
about,
do?
yeah,
Okay.
we
because
want to be
it's
better
fun to
about
have
video.
people, I feel like, see, you know
It's
what I
fun
mean?
to watch and
it.
see who the voice is, you know, to
Yes.
put a face to it.
Yes.
Yeah, and the reactions
connect.
and all
Yeah.
of that.
For sure. For
There
sure.
we go. Okay, so let's go back to your childhood
Okay.
a
yes.
little bit. Let's talk about that. Yeah, your story, where you're from, and
Okay.
you.
So when I was, so there's 5 kids in our family, and my mom was really into like, she got all these kid catalogs a lot. She loved catalogs. Back then there was no social media, right? So catalogs were everything.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh my gosh, how cool would it be if my daughters or my sons too could be in these catalogs? So
Oh,
there was
she's a
like,
genius.
yeah, there was this like competition where you send in your kids' photos, and if you get picked, they'll have you on the cover of her favorite catalog, which was Storybook Heirlooms, which was like
Okay.
this kid dress company. So she sends in all of her images. A month later, she gets a bouquet of roses on her doorstep, and she says, "Your daughter Madison's been picked to be the cover, the model for our thing." So instantly, she's like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be so cool!" So she gets me with an agency. She also got all of my siblings with an agency. She's like, "What if we could start doing this modeling stuff?" So when I flew up to San Francisco to shoot, it was supposed to be a one-off deal, and then they started using me like every month for all of their campaigns. I was like
Oh my
living in
gosh.
like half the time up in San Francisco. She's got these 5 kids. So
How
she
old
would
were you?
just
Yeah, how old were
4. I was 4.
Oh my gosh. Can you
Yeah.
imagine that's like Stevie?
Insane.
Yes.
Stevie next year?
So then
Oh
all through
my
elementary
gosh.
school, all of a sudden, my agent starts sending me in all this stuff, right? So all of elementary school, I'm like basically homeschooled. I would go to school, but then I would get a packet and I would leave. I was always getting called out, and I was living on set.
Yeah.
So I shot for basically every single catalog you can think of.
That's incredible.
Disney. I was the first human on a Disney catalog.
Wow.
Oh
I
my
did, yeah,
gosh.
just basically all of the things you can think
Yeah.
of. My mom has bins full of them. So that was my childhood, was on set like all the time. And I loved it. Like it was my favorite thing
Okay.
ever. My siblings did a little bit of it too. And so that's all I knew. And then when I started getting into junior high, I was like, we started getting into some theatrical stuff. So I started doing commercials and TV stuff,
Yeah.
and loved that too. But because I was homeschooled a lot, I was just always at home. Like my siblings were at school, and then so yeah, so I did that basically my whole life, and that's kind of how I got my kids involved, because I got them into the same agency I was with as a kid, because I was
Oh,
thinking, oh my
Okay.
gosh, I loved it so
Yeah.
much. I loved being on set. I loved getting dressed up. I loved taking the
Yeah.
photos, and so I kind of have them in it, and it kind of worked with our job because all things entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then as we got older, that's why I loved the YouTube and all this, because it kind of, it's like you're doing your own commercials.
your own,
You're doing your
yeah.
own stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I love that. I also did like some sports as a kid, some gymnastics and
Yep.
everything.
Love it.
You have your
And
toe and everything too. It's not just Kyler.
yes,
Yeah.
I
Like
know.
literally, it's both of you, and that
You
is
do
busy.
all the things.
Yes. Yeah, we're just kind of doing like a little bit of everything. But I just grew up in the entertainment world. Like that was like my whole childhood. So when I think back at it, I'm like, that was still kind of what I'm doing, and that's what I
Yeah.
did my whole life.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And you are super inspiring, because I mean, from the moment I met you, you're just kind of like a light, you know, like you just
Thank
like are a
you.
super happy, positive person, and like following your YouTube channel and everything, you see that. But I know that you went through something really difficult when
Yes.
you were 11,
Mhm.
and I want to talk about it because like it's one of those things where when CJ passed away, I was like, I do not want this to define me.
Yep.
Like it's not embarrassing, but it is like, it's just a thing where you're just like, I don't want everybody to know me as
Like
this.
it's written on your
Yeah.
forehead. You're
Yep.
like, seriously?
Yes,
Mhm.
and
There's
you
more
would
to
have,
me.
yeah, and like I don't want people to meet me and be like, oh, you can tell she's a widow,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes.
And like you,
Yeah.
like you
Uh-huh.
meet you, and I'm like, I had no idea that you went through that.
Yeah.
And so I want you to share your story
Okay.
and tell it a little bit, and then just how you got to where you are and how you got through it.
Okay. Yeah. So because I think homeschooled, it was like I was like the perfect victim for what happened was I was sexually molested as a kid, right? So what happened was my family built this house, and our next door neighbor was a child molester, but we didn't know. And so there was 3 girls in our family, and when you start studying it, you realize that child molesters, they plan this in advance. So he would, I'm sure, start vetting us out. Okay, they got 3 daughters. Okay, this girl looks young. Okay, she's always home. Why am I always seeing her? His back window of his house looked into our backyard, so we could always see him, right?
Gosh, yeah.
From his bedroom.
Oh.
And so he would always just stand out there when I would go on the trampoline. All of a sudden, like his blinds would be shut, and then all of a sudden they're open. And sometimes he would wave, and sometimes he would be there, but he's always there.
Yeah.
So he was watching us for a while. Then all of a sudden he becomes friends with my dad, which is the first thing that they do, right? They like befriend your family.
Yeah.
And so we started like hanging out with my parents and inviting us to things. And he had a wife and 2 kids. So
Oh, so he was
no,
older.
yes, he was
Okay.
like in his 50s maybe.
Oh my gosh.
So we had no idea that this guy was even anything, right?
Yeah.
And so we would start going to family things, and he just started getting really close to me. Like he would like every day, like when I was homeschooled, my mom was always, I don't know if she was gone or I can't really remember. Everything kind of feels like a blur, but
She had
I
5
just
kids.
she's got 5 kids,
Busy.
right? They're all gone. I remember I was home alone though, because I would be homeschooled. So I was sitting around the house, and he would come over all the time, and it was usually just us sometimes, and sometimes my family would be there. But he started doing the grooming phase where he would buy us things. So like I think he just had like a ton of money. I don't know what exactly. I know that his job was like installing little cameras at security places, because he would
No.
show me. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. So I'm like, we wondered after we found out all this, we wondered if there was cameras around our house, because
Oh my
he would have these
gosh.
tiny little cameras, and he would install them into offices, workplaces, so people can keep an eye on their buildings.
Yeah.
And I would go into his office at his house, and he would let me talk into them and yell at people like, hey, get out of here, or hey, I see you, and stuff like that. And I remember he had all of like these cameras and tons of computers in his office
Screen.
With all the
screens
things.
playing at all times of all the things
Oh
he's
my
looking into,
gosh.
right?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, whoa, this is cool.
Because
And
you're 11, right? You were
Yeah.
11.
Yeah, I was 11, 7th grade. And so then he started coming over. He saw that I loved to do art, and he's like, can you draw me some pictures? And I was like, sure. He's like, okay, every Sunday you should bring me a picture. I was like, sure. So I would come over to his house every Sunday and bring him
Yeah.
artwork and cookies. And if I didn't, he would get mad. So I had a
Okay.
phone at the time, and he made sure that we had each other's number, and he would always text me like, hey, I haven't gotten my photos yet. Hey, I haven't gotten my cookies. What are you doing? And I'm like, don't worry, I'm working on them now. So
Oh.
when you're little, sometimes when you got this older figure that's bossing you around, I was scared to make him upset. And so
Yeah.
I would just kind of that's where it started. It was like just starting to do what he told me to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was manipulating
He was
you.
manipulating me. And so he started buying us lots of presents. So like he bought my sister a laptop, which we actually destroyed afterwards, because we're like, what if there was cameras on there,
Yeah,
like
good.
tracking stuff. He bought me like this credit card. It was endless money on it. So he said anytime it ran out, he would put more on it, endless, whatever I want. And my mom's like,
What?
don't use that. We're not going to, okay, you can go
She's
buy a
like,
couple
"That's
things, but
weird."
we're not taking advantage of this credit
Of
card.
this-
Like, it
yeah.
was kind of weird. And those were some red flags as parents. Like, I would have noticed if a 50-year-old man across the street was starting to do this to my kids.
Yeah.
You'd be
Why?
like,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
That's the number one red flag that like you parents need to realize. Why are they getting so close? Why do they want to spend so much time with my daughter? Why does he want to come over? Why does he want to buy her a credit card?
Yeah. Did your
Yeah.
parents feel that at that point or not quite?
They didn't, because I had this part of my personality where I was a people pleaser, and
Yeah,
I think he knew
that's-
that I was a perfect victim, because like instead of me being like, hey mom, so Robert really wants me to make him cookies, he's being so weird, like a normal kid would
Yeah.
communicate, I'd be like, bye mom, I made cookies, I really want to go to Robert's. And she'd be like,
Yeah.
well, is anyone going with you? No, it's fine. Like I would
Yeah.
lie almost straight
For
out of
him,
myself for
yeah.
him to keep him happy.
Yeah.
And I was doing this, I would have like a 2 different personality swap. And I would like beg my parents to go places with him when I did not want to go. Like he would
Yeah.
ask me to go places with him sometimes. And my parents would be like, you want to go? Yes, please, please, please. I would beg almost.
Yeah.
But I didn't,
Yeah.
but as I'm saying please, I'm thinking like, I don't
do
want to
not
go
wanna
here
go.
because I
Yeah.
know what's going to
There's
happen.
like a level of fear in there.
Yeah, I was like
somewhere as
terrified.
well. Yeah.
So I would go to his house all the time, and whenever I would show up, the creepiest thing is his wife would leave, and she would go outside on the swing and swing. They had like a swing set, and she would
What?
just swing, and she would never come into the house.
This is straight out of
Yeah.
a movie.
And I used to say, I know, right? Like we almost wanted to make a movie on it because it's so creepy. And I would be like, why is she always outside swinging? He goes, I don't know. She just likes to be outside. She would
So,
never talk to
Do you
me.
think she knew?
I think she knew, or maybe he also did stuff to hit them,
Her-
and like she
yeah,
was under like his
oh.
spell almost. Like,
Yeah.
you better not do
No
this or I
way.
can hurt you, you know?
Oh my
And
Oh
so she'd
my
always be out
gosh.
there, and he always loved. I mean, where were my parents during that? I don't want to make them feel bad, but like,
Right.
what is going on? Because he would make us watch movies at his house.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it first was starting, was like, he'd be like, what movie do you want to watch today? And he would do this every week. And I'd be like, I don't know, what movie should we watch? And he'd pick one. And then, so he's got this, like, these chairs lining the whole movie room. And then the back, there was these 2 massage chairs. And like, he'd always make me sit back there with him. And sometimes my siblings and my friends would go with me to the movie room, and all of them would sit up there, and we'd sit in the back behind them. And they never noticed the fact that he would make me sit on his lap.
Because
the
they're
whole
all young
movie.
too.
Yeah, my
As
sister's
an
probably like
11-year-old, you were sitting
9.
on his lap.
Yeah, for the whole movie. Like, I wouldn't be able to get off his lap. And he would touch me everywhere, like hold my hand. I wasn't allowed to let go of his hand. My hand would be dripping sweat, and I was always like a robot watching the movie. And I knew that every week I had to do this, right?
Oh my
Mhm.
gosh.
And so I'm like, okay, well, whatever. This is what's
This is
going
what
on.
it is, yeah.
And what I like, when I look back at it, I'm thinking, why would I go back to that every week? I just don't
Yeah.
understand. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so then, he would take me in these other rooms and be like, I need to show you my gun. Like, he always wanted to show me his gun. Like, he would just show me weird things. Every picture I would make of him,
Almost like threaten you. Like,
Yeah.
I have these.
yes, like I was nervous sometimes. And he would always say things like, listen, like, I love you so much. You can't tell your parents about these things, right? I'm like, oh yeah. And then when I would ask him why, he'd just be like, well, this is just between you and me. I love that we have this special friendship. Like, he would always make it seem like it was such a big thing.
My
And-
stomach hurts.
Yeah, every time I would make him a picture, he'd scan it, and then he had this like gallery in his computer, and he'd be like, look at all your photos for the week. I've scanned them all. Like, he was so creepy, you guys.
He's
And I'm like,
obsessed with you.
wow, that's really cool.
Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so then this one time he asked me to go up to Los Angeles with him for a like magic show, and that was gonna be like an 1.5-hour drive, and I was a little nervous, and I was said to my parents, can I go? And they're like, are you sure you want to go? And I was like, yeah, please, you know, that's the thing I do.
Yeah.
And my sister I was like, hey, can Mackenzie come with me? And he was like, oh no, just us. And I was like, well, I really want my sister to come. So I was trying to, for the first time, have someone come with me. And he's like, okay, fine, she can come. So the whole way she was in the back seat the whole way there, you know, he's holding my hand, rubbing my arm, rubbing my leg.
Oh, is your sister older or younger than you?
Younger.
Okay.
And I like always wanted her to come with me, you know, because I was always nervous. And the funny thing is, every time we'd go in the backyard to jump on the trampoline, it would start off shut, right, the windows, and then all of a sudden it would open, and we'd notice, oh, he's there, Robert's there.
Ew.
We always felt uneasy, but we didn't know why. And my sister
Yeah.
used to flip him off.
Stop.
But I'd be like, don't do that. You're going to make him mad. Like, it was almost like I was like under his
Like,
spell,
you
right?
knew.
It was so
Yes.
weird.
Totally.
My sisters felt it too. Like, why would they be flipping him off? Like, they
Yeah.
hated him. They thought he was
Yeah.
creepy.
But he
Yeah.
was like this family friend. Oh
Yes,
my
but he was like
gosh.
this family friend. And I remember, this is actually crazy. I didn't even share this on my podcast, but because I wasn't sure if my dad would feel bad. But my dad actually one time would go over to his house, and he said, hey, Paul, if you ever knew who I really was, you wouldn't be my friend. He's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, I have a really dark side to me, and you would never want to be my friend if you knew who I was. And he was like, no, I love everybody.
Oh.
And so my dad now, when I finally
Yeah.
told him everything, like, he put the pieces together, and he was like, oh my gosh.
But it's like you don't
it was
think
right in
that
front
of
of me.
people,
Yeah,
right?
you
Like,
don't think of it.
you just don't.
Especially if you're somebody that sees the good in everybody, which it sounds like
Yeah.
your parents are
Yeah.
just trusting and like loving of
They were
everyone.
just trusting. Like, they just loved everyone. They didn't think.
You don't think
know?
about
And he
that.
did all the right things. Like
Yeah.
his steps, his process was like
Well, he's a
perfectly
great
planned
friend.
out.
Yeah, he had it
Yeah.
all planned out. We have pictures when we would go to dinner with him, and he was always sitting next to me, and we'd be with my whole
Oh.
family, and it's like all those pieces were coming together. But at the time we didn't know, so anyway, back to the drive. We get all the way up to Los Angeles, get to this fancy dinner, and the same thing, like the waiters don't notice, but he's under the table groping me everywhere, like the whole time we're eating, right? And I'm trying to like eat my food, and he's like touching me everywhere down there, and I'm like, is this normal? Like, and as an 11-year-old, you don't
Yeah.
know what's going on. And he'd always kiss me, like between bites of food, he'd kiss my neck, he'd kiss my face, and I just like was so uncomfortable, right?
Ugh.
And no one's noticing. My sister's literally sitting in front of us, like that's
You're
what's
like,
so
clue
weird
in.
about this whole thing. And then on the way home, she fell asleep, and he just like stares at me while he drives and like touches my arm and rubs my arm and, everything. And I just always was like so uptight and stressed. And then there was like so many, like just all that kind of stuff just kept happening, right? All the time. He'd always text me things. Where are you? What are you doing right now? I'm in love with you. Just things like that all the time. I never knew how to respond to him. One time I was getting ready for cheer practice, and he was like up in my bathroom. I didn't know. And I was changing, and I was like, oh, like I'm trying to change. He's like, okay, I'll go downstairs. I'm like, why was he upstairs?
Why were you
Why
here?
were you here?
Why are you up here? Where are my parents?
Yeah.
It's like always these things I look back at. And
Well, and I'm like thinking about it when you're in public and you're with your sister and he's doing all these things and nobody's really saying anything.
No one
Maybe
says
it's making
anything.
you feel like maybe this is normal. Like
yeah.
maybe this is
As
what
an
it's supposed to
11-year-old,
be
you're
like.
just like, okay, yeah.
Because if nobody's saying anything to this guy, this must be normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that has to be so lonely and hard
And it's just so
weird.
Picture like what I think what hurt me the most and what was so hard to talk about it is because I feel like I couldn't talk about it because my parents, like when I look back at it, I'm like, what bugs me the most about it is how many red flags there are, how many obvious signs. Why is your 11-year-old in Los Angeles
Yeah.
with a 50-year-old man
Mhm.
at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Right.
for 4 hours? Like,
Yeah.
do you not think that's weird? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I like obviously I've overcome all of this, and this is why it's so like I don't even mind talking about it. It's because what hurts me is now that I'm a mom, like
Yes.
thinking of my kid. Like that's the only triggering part for me
Yeah.
is like
Absolutely.
how like as a parent it just confuses me.
Yeah.
But I guess they were supposed to learn through that too, right? Like it's
Yeah.
their first time being a parent
Yeah.
as well. So I
And
think I really
times
forget
are-
about that.
Times are so different now.
They're so
different.
different now.
Yeah, that now I'm like, that would never fly.
Now
but I'm
people-
like, my grandma would probably for sure be like,
Yes.
yeah, go with
I
Gary
know.
down the
It's
street. He's the
different.
best, right?
Because
Like,
nobody talked about it back then,
No.
really.
Nobody
And
talked
now
about it.
everybody's talking about it, which I think is a really good thing.
yes, it
Yeah.
was so foreign. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think so. And so where it finally, the day that I finally told them, it was kind of crazy. So all that stuff had been happening, and
For a couple of years.
for like a
right?
whole year. Yeah.
A
Because
year.
now I was in 8th grade. So it was like a whole year of these things. Like he would just take me places all the time, always touch me everywhere. He hadn't like raped me yet. Right. And I
Okay.
think that was like the biggest thing in the last podcast was where my husband got reamed because he's like, well, at least he didn't get raped, all the way. And I was like, well, yeah, but he touched me like everywhere and like a lot. You know
Either
what I
way,
mean?
you felt violated.
Yes,
You know?
like full rubbing,
Yes.
grabbing, like just
Ugh.
everything. And so this was like the most he's groped me was this one time. So he asked me to go to get ice cream with him. And I was like, okay, yeah. So on the way there, he always wants, I have to hold his hand the whole way. And I hated it. So
Mhm.
I was playing this joke on him. I was always like, I think my coping mechanism as a kid for safety was to play jokes.
Mhm.
So I'd have to put myself into like another character where I was almost like not me, but I was like this jokester so that he would only be able to react as like laughing and not like get rid of the lust, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so every time he tried to grab my hand, I would like throw something that I could find in the car at him, or I would like throw a napkin. I remember I kept throwing napkins in his hand every time he tried to grab my hand. It's just like funny. I was trying so hard to like not get him to touch me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then we lived in a gated community, and he was like, hey, do you want to drive my car? And I was, well, I think I'm too young to drive your car. And he says, no, it's okay. If you sit on my lap, it'll be fine. I was like, I don't freaking sit on your lap. Like, this is what I'm
Gosh.
thinking in my head. And he's
Yeah.
like, but I can't speak up for myself, right? Like, no part of me can speak up for myself. I
Yeah.
don't know why. It was just who I think an 11-year-old just doesn't know how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just like in shock and like a
Yeah.
robot when you're around him.
I was a
'cause
full-on
don't know what to
shocked
do.
robot. It was
Yeah.
the weirdest thing. I don't understand. I would just
Like
do
a
anything
puppet,
he told me to do.
literally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, just sit on my lap, it'll be fine. I was like, okay, sure. So I go sit on his lap, and he started just like holding me. He's like pulling me into himself, like trying to do like those
Oh.
movements where he's almost like trying to
Uh-huh.
grind on you
Yep.
with his hips. And he's like, has his hands just completely under my whole
body.
Yep. Parts everywhere. Just like if I was naked, he'd be fully in. Like,
yes.
luckily he didn't go like into my clothes yet, but he was about like he was
basically
moving
there.
the pants around and everything, right? So he was like, I couldn't even drive, guys. Like If I had been in the car for 5 minutes, who knows? My clothes could have been off because he
Oh,
was like moving my shirt around, like everything, and I
I
was
cannot.
on top of him while he's doing all of that. Take in mind, I'm trying to
You're trying
drive
to
his
drive.
expensive car.
Yeah.
So here I am holding the steering wheel, trying to drive,
You're
and
like, this
he's
is so
doing this
fun.
to me and like moving around and like everything. And I remember the detectives, when I told them this part, they were like, "Did he have an erection?" I'm like, I didn't know what it was.
You're like, I don't
Oh.
even know what
Yeah.
that means.
I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know what that means. And they're like, okay, well, I wish you would have known because then you could have given us more info. I was like, well, what is that going to help the case anyway?
What?
You know what I mean? Like, they wanted me so badly to know
Yeah.
if he was like hard. And I'm like,
But
Yeah.
you
I don't
guys,
know.
I was just trying to
And
drive.
yes. And so that's a whole nother part was like the detectives were so brutal when they were talking to me. But I can talk about that after. But basically, our street was only 2 streets down. I could turn left and be home. And he says, take the long way, which is if I turned right, I had to go around 3 miles to get back to my house.
Yeah.
He's like, go right. And I was like, well, our street's right there. And he's like, no, just go right. Then we can go longer. And I was like, okay, here I
Ugh.
go. Like
Madison.
all the robots.
Yeah.
So by the time we get to the front, I pulled his car up into his driveway and I got out and ran home and locked every door.
Oh,
And that was
good.
the first time he knew that I was upset. And
Yeah.
he had
Yeah.
never known before. I would always play into his games that it was okay.
Yeah.
I always told him it was okay. I always told him I won't tell my parents. I played along with it. And so for the first time I ran home, locked all the doors. And he had the ice cream that we just bought. We hadn't eaten it yet. It was still in the bag. And so he comes knocking on the back door. And
Ew.
no, first he knocks on the front door and I don't answer. I was hiding
Was
in the
anyone home?
kitchen. No one was home. I was home alone.
Oh my gosh.
So he's like knocking on the front door and then I was hiding and then he came around, he got through our gate and went to our backyard and then he starts knocking on the back door. And I was hiding and then I look and then the thought that ran through my head was, oh my gosh, if he breaks in, if he knows that I'm upset, he could kill me.
Oh,
He knows that it's gone too far. He knows I'm going to say something. He knows I'm hiding now. So now he's caught, right?
yeah.
So if he knows he's caught, what is he willing to do right now?
Yeah,
He
to
knows
escape his own.
to escape it. He's going to go
Yes.
get his gun. Is he going to go? I don't know. I don't know what he's going to
Oh
do. And
my
so I was like,
gosh.
okay, here's my options. I hide, I figure out a way to get out of this, or I let him in, act like nothing happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I was just joking. So I was like, I think I'm going to do that. So I opened the door and I was like, I'm just kidding. Like,
Oh my god.
let's eat our ice cream. Like, I just thought it'd be funny to see whatever. I make up stuff on the spot, right?
Yeah, because
And so,
shock. Like
yeah, I
you're
was
just
like
like, let's
shocked.
do this thing. Yeah.
So while I'm eating my ice cream, every time I take a bite, he would just grab my face and just like kept kissing me. And like, he just wanted to like make out with me and like, keep what's
Oh.
going further, what that happened in the car. And so I kept trying to like go around the kitchen and move around and try to escape him. And he kept following me and trying to like,
Yeah.
no, let's get this going. So then all of a sudden I tried to change the subject and I said, hey, why were you and your wife fighting yesterday? Because they were I walked over to his house to bring him artwork again or something. And his wife and him were screaming like she was
Oh,
crying. It
no.
was the first time I had seen that. So I said, what happened? And he said, that's what I always wanted to talk to you about was we're getting a divorce because I'm going to marry you.
Oh.
And yeah, I said,
No way.
yeah. And I said, well, I just think I'm too little to get married. He's like, well, that's okay. He's like, when do you want to get married? And I said, I don't know. I said, I just don't really know if you're the one. He says, what do you mean? Of course I'm the one. We're in love. And he goes, if we can wait till you're 18, we'll just tell your parents when you're 18, we'll get married. He goes, that's only in 6 years from now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want this to be my husband. I'm just like so
Yeah.
confused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, like thinking, is this it? This is my husband? So then I'm like sitting there like,
Oh.
I said, I don't think I'm getting married till like I'm probably in my 20s. He goes, whatever amount of time you need, that's fine. I'll wait for you because I'm in love with you. And he goes, I already told my wife we're getting a divorce. So I was like panicking. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so weird.
I'm stuck with him forever.
Yeah, I'm like, this is so weird. I don't know what to do. I was like, you shouldn't divorce your wife. Like, I don't know if I want to be with you. And I was too scared to say that. And so then right when I was like in this middle of this conversation, my mom like walks into the front room, or she comes in from the garage. She pulled up and she's like, hey, what's going on? And I just looked at her with like these really scared eyes. And she just, this mother intuition, she just makes up a full lie because we didn't have anything that day. And she goes, hey, Robert, actually, Madison, we have to go right now. I'm like, oh, we do? She's like, yeah, we have to leave right now. I'm like, okay. So then he leaves. And then, so my mom had no idea
What's
about
going
anything.
on? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
And I just like broke down and just started telling her, like what's been going on. Mom, like this guy's been touching me for years. He's been kissing me. He's been groping me. He wants to marry me. I don't know what to do. Like, every time you're gone, he comes over. Like, he's been up in my bedroom. He texts me nonstop. Like, I don't know. And so she was like, oh my gosh, what? How? When did this happen? Why didn't you tell
Yeah.
me? So she calls my dad. He like rushes home. I don't really know how this works, but his cousins in like the detective world,
Your dad or this guy's?
my dad's
Oh.
husband, or sorry, my dad's
Cousin. Okay.
dad's husband.
Whoa.
Whatever.
My dad's, yeah. No, so his cousin works as like a detective of some sort,
Okay.
so he can look up people's files. And what's so weird about it is when he looked up Robert, it shows that he had raped a 7-year-old. Yeah,
Oh.
7-year-old. He's raped all these other girls. But what's so weird about it is all of the charges have been brought down because he pays these families millions of dollars to stay silent, right?
Oh my god.
But how are they in there then? Like, how are their
Yeah.
stuffs there, but he's not arrested? Like, how can
Right.
he see that?
Right.
But he
But-
can see that the charges have been lowered. I
But
don't
he
get
still
it.
lives next to you. Yeah. That is what in the world?
Yeah, and so we got in touch with the family whose daughter was raped when she was 7. She was now like maybe 19, and she was going to come
Okay.
to court to testify. So we were going to basically take him to court.
Yeah.
I was going to testify everything that he had done to me, and then she was going to talk about how he full on raped her when she was 7, and he's raped like 5 other girls or more, just
Yeah.
to what's
Oh my
been
gosh.
recorded.
Yeah.
And so my parents were like, oh my gosh, like we're living next to like a full on child molester.
Yeah.
So my dad, because he's like, he didn't know what to do. Like most dads would want to go over there and punch the guy in the face. He
Yeah.
goes over there and is like, listen, I heard what happened. If you really be willing to move, we would like to stay here because we just finished building our house this year and we're planning on like retiring here. So if you will move, that would be great. He's like, don't worry, I'll move. Okay. So my dad comes home. Okay, he's gonna move. We're all good. We're like, okay, when? So like months are going by and we're living next to this guy.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he's still opening up his window. He's still
Oh
being
my
creepy. I've got the detectives on everything, and they're taking me into their office every week and asking me all these questions. Like, okay, did he have an erection? Did he rape you? And I'm like, well, he didn't fully rape me, but, and it was like always the but. They were like, well, then we don't have a big enough case here.
Yeah.
So there's nothing we can do. Like they were almost hoping that he had raped me, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, why would you want it to be more? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, and so, hey, Kyler. And so that was what was bugging me the most. And that the fact that like I couldn't, that my story wasn't enough. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so every time I meet with them, like they would ask me all these questions, and I decided that it'd be easier for me to just act like nothing happened and just brush it under the rug, because I could tell how hard it was for my parents to
Oh.
hear me talk about it,
Yeah.
because it was hurting them, seeing them so hurt that they didn't do the right things. I didn't want them to feel any pain. I would rather take all the pain onto me than to have
You're a
them
people
feel.
pleaser.
You're, I say
Yes.
you're a people pleaser. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
told them, you know what? It's all good. Let's forget about it. It ever happened. Let's just move on. Never
Oh.
happened. I don't care. My dad's like, no, we need to sue him because he caused so much damage. Now we have to move. He wasn't moving. He was taking forever. So my dad's like moved our whole family that month in the house he was planning on living for forever. So we moved. His court date was in a few weeks. We were going to like sue him. We're going to tell everything. That girl was going to share her story.
Mhm.
And the day before court, we get a call from the police that says that he hung himself. So now my dad,
What?
yeah, my dad was like, oh my gosh, like now we can't even sue him, which wasn't even about the money in the first
But
place.
it was
Right.
just the matter
Justice.
of fact.
But it was
Yeah.
a matter of fact that like he wasn't gonna be able to be held accountable for anything that he did with any of these girls. This
And
girl
you just moved your
and
whole
we
family.
just moved our whole family, like our whole
Oh.
house that he designed from scratch. Like we'd only been living there for like a year, right? Like
Yeah.
he spent years designing this thing. This was his forever home.
Yeah.
And so now we had moved his whole family, and it's just been so hard. It was so hard for them and just everything that they had to deal with, that I decided from that day that I would just never talk about it again. I'm just gonna pretend like it didn't happen.
Mm.
So I went my whole life, playing like it never happened, to almost please my family. And then the first time I ever really talked about it was on that podcast. And it was
Really?
just, yeah, like I told Kyler a few times, but I even felt awkward posting that podcast because I was so scared my parents were gonna feel bad.
Mm.
I think that was like my biggest thing.
Yeah.
And because when I was starting to research more about it, it's like says like 1 in 3 are sexually abused. And every time I shared that podcast, I cannot tell you how many people reached out and said, this happened to me. This happened to my mom. This happened to me with my own father. This happened to me with my uncle. This happened to my child. Like every single person it was almost like every single person had this happen to them. And even when I was at the gymnastics or dance or anyone in the last few months since I've shared this,
Yeah.
they all have a story about what's
Mhm.
happened to somebody that they know.
Yeah.
And it's because it's out there so much I felt like, oh my gosh, how cool is it to be a voice for these
Yeah.
young teens who probably have this happening to them and they're too scared to say anything.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know, it was just like really cool for me to share my story. I know it was like how you felt when you shared yours. Like it's almost therapeutic to talk about it, right?
Yes. Yes. And to know like somebody's going through something similar and you can maybe help. Like you can make them listen
difference
and they're like,
somewhere.
I need to go tell my parents right now, you
Yeah.
know? So, I mean, it's incredible that you are brave enough to share that because
Yeah.
that's heavy. And
Yeah.
it's crazy that you kept it under for so long. I mean, you were so young and that's a long time to go through it without
Yeah, for like
really,
a year and a half.
yeah.
And not even tell my sisters or anybody.
Yeah. And like, you're so young, you're just confused. You're like, is this normal? Like, I
Yeah,
don't
had
know.
no
Yeah, I don't know
idea.
left from right at that
And
age.
yeah,
Like, what
being
am
a
I?
mom, thinking of my like Stevie or Charlie, somebody doing that to them, I can't, you
Yeah,
know?
how has it changed your perspective on your children as far as like social media goes and parenting
Yeah.
and like any of that?
Yeah, it's a hard thing because after I posted that, they're like, oh, and then of course you're putting your kids out there for the
Ugh.
same thing. I'm like, no, I'm actually not, because we're spreading like light and happiness and family values, and my kids are in a very safe environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have my radar on for all things because of what I've gone through. I mean,
Absolutely.
even having them in the entertainment industry, like my radar is on at any time. We'll stop. It's not like
Yeah.
it's all for us. You know, it's
Right.
like an extra thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's really hard for people. I don't know, like they just instantly want to say something and make me
Yeah.
feel bad. And I don't think being on social media makes it scary. In my opinion, like it could be your next door neighbor, it could be your uncle.
Right.
Oh,
What
it could
I've
be in your
heard
house.
from
Yeah.
what I've heard from some psychologists or whatever that study this stuff is most of the time it's not the stranger. It's
Yeah,
the
it's
person
the-
that you know the most that
Yeah.
you would never
Yeah.
know. And so what we have done as a family, what we decided is there's no sleepovers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because you never know. You can trust the parents. But if that older brother who's maybe 17 is home and his friend comes over and
Yeah.
he has weird fetishes,
Yep.
you don't know who's going to be there, right? Like you
Yeah.
can't keep track of who's coming in and out of the house.
No.
Yeah. You can't trust anybody.
And so for us, it's like they're never going to walk home from school. I
Mhm.
don't care. Like I don't care if they're with their best friends or
Mhm.
older kids. I don't want them to walk
Yeah.
home from school because
Yeah.
who knows? There could be 1 second someone pulls up. But I'm just gonna drive the 5 minutes and pick them up from school. That's like
Yeah.
an easy thing that I can do. And no hate against parents who do that because I know a lot of kids walk home from school. But
Right.
that's just for me something
Yeah,
that
being
I felt.
protective.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool that you still let your kids live because I
Yeah.
think a lot of people probably expect you to lock
Hide
them
under a
in these
rock.
4
Yeah.
walls, right? And it's like that's not
Yeah.
going to do any good either.
Mhm.
Yeah. You
When
have
it
to
comes
move
down to it.
forward.
And I
Yeah.
think my biggest thing, which could end up being kind of a sad thing, was anytime someone seems too obsessive, I think it's a red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
That's
okay for
valid.
someone to be obsessed with your family and love them, but as soon as they're like going out of their way, when can I see the kids? Why can't I see the
Oh.
kids? Why, oh my gosh, I need to see the kids this week. As soon as it feels too much, I'm like, this feels weird, which we had somebody like that before
Okay.
and we had to cut them out. And I feel sad because maybe they weren't like that, but in our opinion, it's okay, Kyler. In our opinion, I think that if somebody's being too obsessive, it's like the first red flag.
Yeah.
That's what it was for our family, at least.
Yeah.
Especially with one person or the twins or you know what I mean, like
Mhm.
a specific group, that's where it's like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
That's weird.
So
Yeah.
has anything been different since you shared about it? Or like, are you going to therapy? Are you doing anything to like try and like,
Yeah,
do
now
you
that
feel
it's
like
been brought up again.
emotions have surfaced
So
now that you've talked about it more?
we've done some type of therapy. It's it's like a therapy that's supposed to it's supposed to help like your cognitive, or what is it? Your conscious,
Yeah.
the back conscious that you like store everything in come forward so you can almost relive the trauma instead of
That's
brushing
hilarious.
it in the back. It's like actually the opposite of
Yeah,
what you're
the
doing.
opposite of what
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
doing.
trying to bring it to the front because
Yeah.
I did push it back.
Yes.
And I'm trying to be okay with crying through it, be okay with things resurfacing, be okay with living
'cause
through it
was
again.
shoved down,
Because
so yeah.
yeah, so I'm actually doing the opposite. And as I relive it, I'm able to understand why I did that, learn why my younger self pushed that away, why I hid, why I did these things. And then I can figure out, how to get through
Like
that.
reverse engineering.
And it's been hard because part of me feels, what was hard for me was it felt like my story wasn't needed to be told. It wasn't needed to be resurfaced. It wasn't big enough. It wasn't cool enough. It wasn't anything that was going to help by resurfacing it. But as I resurfaced it, I realized, why not? Like,
Yeah.
because it was a part of me that was broken at that time.
Yeah.
And part of my soul was broken at that time, and I didn't know until I brought it forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
So I think it's important sometimes, you
No,
know?
for sure. And like you went through it and you're probably still going through it, but like now that you're a mom, it's probably just helped shape you as a mom so much,
Yeah,
more
it
than you
has.
can even think.
I
So
think I'm equipped with some tools now to
Yeah.
like help my kids.
Yeah,
Like my
for sure.
mommy radar is a little bit more
turned on.
I think my parents learned a lot through that too, because I felt like theirs maybe wasn't turned on for some reason, and now I know.
Yeah. Has your sister come out to say anything about it? Like, or does she just remember what you remember?
It's really weird because I still haven't talked about it with my family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
My parents, I know they've seen my podcast, but we haven't talked about it. Like
Okay,
they
yeah.
won't. I think it's just too hard.
Yeah. I don't
It's
know.
something
Hope
like
one
everybody
day-
probably wanted to bury.
I think everyone wants to bury it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, you're
I
brave.
still want to make a movie on it, because what I think
You
would be really
should.
cool is to make, because I can envision everything. There's so many parts to it that it's hard. Like I wrote it all down, and sometimes I'm forgetting some things.
Yeah.
But there were so many parts to it that were so creepy. Even after the detective stuff, when he was there for the 2 months, you don't even understand the creepy stuff he was doing that they were
Ugh.
finding. It was so creepy, like out of a movie. And so those things, like all those things, I wanted to make a movie about it. And then kind of like how The Sound of Freedom was at the end, how you can donate to like help with other things.
Yeah.
I almost wanted to make it a type of thing where people that are going through the same thing can, I don't know, maybe there's a nonprofit
Yeah.
or something
Oh,
to
I'm
help
sure there is.
people.
Yeah.
I just want it to all be connected into one.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Whatever it
really
is.
cool. Yeah. If
That's
you had
cool.
advice for a young teenager or someone going through this, what would your advice be? Because I feel like it's easy to be like, tell your parents, but
Yeah.
it's not that easy.
Sometimes parents aren't the right person to tell.
Yeah.
Like for mine, they would have been, but some kids, their parents might be the ones doing it to them, and they might be their
Yeah.
uncle. Sometimes they don't have anyone, right? So it puts them in a really bad situation, because like if I rat out my parents who are doing this to me, now I have no family, I'm an orphan
Yeah.
or whatever. Like there could be some crazy situations going on, right? And so I think I know there's some type of like number or something to help. I don't know what it is, but
Okay, like a
I think you
hotline
need to find
number?
somebody
Yeah.
that you trust. There's somebody you can trust, whether it's an older sibling,
Mhm.
whether it's a teacher, a professor, a neighbor. If you feel like there's someone in your life that your soul just feels like you can trust them, go to them,
Yeah.
because who knows, if maybe you can't go to your parents.
Yeah.
In my situation, I should have, but that's my number one thing to anybody going through it, is to go find someone you trust and tell them as soon as possible, because it can get to the next stage a lot faster.
Yeah.
And who knows how far they would take it, you know?
Yeah.
Whether it's past, being molested, it could be, they could maybe take your life, or they could be molesting other kids. You're not only saving yourself, you're saving the other kids too, because these people have a track record.
Yeah, so
They're going to go
chances
do
are
it
you're
again.
not the only one
So
going
you're
through
saving
it.
someone else's life.
Yeah. I know. I'm proud of you guys for like turning him in. And I mean, obviously he ended up
Yes.
dead, but
Which
like,
I think maybe was a blessing in disguise. I think maybe it would have haunted me knowing that maybe he would have gone to prison for life, which I think he would have. But
But yeah, if he wouldn't have, then it's like he's out there somewhere. That's an icky feeling to live with
Yeah.
forever.
yeah.
and I feel bad for his kids, or like who else?
Oh, I
Who
forgot about his
knows?
kids and his
I know he had a
wife.
daughter who was
Oh
in high
my
school.
gosh.
Dang it.
That is so sad.
Sometimes I want to go find them, ask questions.
Yeah. Seriously.
I don't know where to find them.
Oh, wow. Did you ever find cameras in your house?
We didn't. We like searched everywhere, but we
Okay.
destroyed that laptop because I
Yes.
feel like that could have been. Laptops had maybe cameras in them or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Like the little webcam thingy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
He could. I mean, he could have
So
also put
icky.
cameras and then taken them away too in our rooms where we were changing. Who knows?
jeez.
I
Yeah.
can't.
I mean,
Sneaky.
that's a huge thing to happen to you, especially at that age. And yeah, I mean, it's really cool that you haven't let it like define you, and you have found a happy life, and you've, moved forward. And I think that's super,
Thank
super
you,
cool.
and thanks for letting me share my story.
No,
Yes,
thanks
thank
for
you.
talking about it. I know it's not easy.
No, not easy at all. Okay,
Emotional.
before we end, we forgot to do this. We were
Oh,
supposed
our
to
goodie
at the
grab.
beginning, Our goodie grab.
Okay,
She's
so
tried these. We
Those
have
are
not.
good. My friend used to have a bunch of those in her house in her movie room.
Whoa,
But
I
they
don't
were
need
my
this whole
favorite.
thing. Hold on.
okay, what are they? Rye, tell us.
Pink lemonade, sour strips.
Okay.
Do you want one?
Sour is my weakness. I
Oh,
love it
bring
so
it on.
much. So here we go.
That's funny because
It's almost better
I
than
think
chocolate.
same with, I like chocolate, but
You do?
Rye likes
I like sour.
sour.
can listen to our chews.
Oh,
Mhm.
people
Okay,
get
these
people
are
get mad at us
so
for them.
good. So where'd you find these, Target?
That's incredible.
I'm obsessed, actually.
It's so funny because I'm always so skeptical of everything we try,
You
but I
are?
always end up liking it.
Yeah, this is yummy.
Well, it's like really sour.
Where are people sending? Are you just posting on Instagram and they just send in a poll of what their favorite things are?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like we do a lot of like drinks, different drinks that people
It's usually always from Dutch Bros.
that feels easiest. But
Yeah.
we're trying to branch out and be smart. But
We're
it's
starting
hard.
to do like products too, like
Oh,
a product
cool.
goodie grab and try a new product. And
Have you tried the Summer Fridays lip oil?
No. Is it so
It's
good?
way good, actually.
so
I
good.
always need a lip oil because I'm always using Aquaphor. But I'm like, there's got to be something a little
Yeah.
bit better.
It's so
Summer
good,
Fridays
but
is
we
so
were
good.
just talking about how the what's it called?
The seal.
the
Doesn't
seal is
seal.
yeah,
Oh,
like
it
the oil
doesn't?
sometimes leaks.
Oh, dang. So in your purse, it could ruin your purse.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So be
But
careful
is it
with
so
where you
good?
put
They gotta
that.
work
Okay,
on that.
these are so
Have
good.
more.
No.
Sour strips.
We
pink
got you
lemonade.
some. We put some
Yeah,
in
there's
your little
some in your
goodie
bag,
bag.
Oh,
too.
you're so nice.
Yes. Okay, well,
Okay.
thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for coming on.
I know
It's-
you're so awesome.
I'm so glad I got to meet you. You're
It's good to
amazing.
meet you too.
Make sure to like, subscribe, and download all the things.
Hug your people.
Then hug them again. Bye, guys.
Love you guys.
Love you.